In this lesson, we're going to be looking at the different variable types as well as looking at how to use calculations in Python. So different variable types. Last lesson we looked at strings, which is just another word for, well, words, a piece of text. We've also got integers that we're going to be using today, which is whole numbers. You might have hear it referred to that in maths as integers. Also looking at decimal numbers, so floating point numbers, as we call them in programming, or just shorthand is float. Sometimes they're called single, mainly it's called float. And one that doesn't come up much, we're not going to look at it today really, but just while we're covering the rest, is Boolean, which is true and false. We're going to be focusing on these two today. So different types of ways you can do calculations. Obviously on your keyboard you can press plus and it will add two numbers together. You can also subtract and it will, well, the minus sign will subtract two numbers. Now it gets a bit weird when you want to multiply, because you'd think, right, well, you just write x, but x is used, it's a letter. The keyboard just sees it as a letter, so what we use instead is the asterisk or the little star. If you press shift 8 on your keyboard, you'll get that symbol up. Same with divide, there's not a divide symbol on your keyboard, so you'll need to press the slash button, which is just, it's right next to the arrows. If you look on your keyboard, it's underneath it should be underneath the question mark on most keyboards. So the calculations of variables. We looked at storing text in variables last time, but you can also store numbers. So this one, rather than going name equals and you write your name, you can put two numbers instead. So just do 2 plus 2 and it will add that up, put 4 in there, and then when you go print number, it prints out whatever is held in number. So remember, think of it like a jar. That jar is called number and we held in number 4 until you said print and you actually get to see the contents of it. You can make it a bit more complex. So let's say you've got 5, or you've got a variable called burgers and you've got 5 of them, right? And the price is a set £2. If you wanted to get the total price, you can say burgers times price. And what happens here is it'll look at burgers, or burgers will be written here, and it will look up what the number stored in it is. So it's 5. And then it'll go times price and it'll look up the price, which is £2 or 2.00, and it just goes 5 times 2.00, which will give you 10. And that's when you print it out here. If you don't put the print total price, it won't give you anything. It'll do the calculation, but it won't show you it. And so that's just how you multiply two numbers together and store it in a variable to be used later. So gonna look at a worksheet 2. First one you just got to copy it over. Second one you've got to copy it. Now the important bit is when you're asking for a number, right, you see this little int bit here, you need to put that before a number. If you just do number equals input, it will take in your number, but it will be the word 2 as opposed to the number 2. This makes sure it's a number and you can use it later. But this one you just have to copy it out and for yourself and then try it out. This one you just have to finish it off, so you have to go total equals num1 plus num2, and then you say the total is what you've just calculated is total. Adds them together. So right, this one's slightly different. I'm going to cover task 4, right? So let's just minimize that. And right, so how you would do task 4 is just like this. You need to set up a number. What is your first number? So you make a variable, call it anything you want, but sensible names, well, make more sense. So num1 equals, and like I said up here, it's int input. If you just done input, it won't work, and I'll actually show that after. I can't spell today, great. So input, and you just write, what's the question even asking? What is your first number? What is your first number? And then after that, we're doing pretty much the same. I'm just going to copy and paste it. So Control C, Control V, make my life easier. What is your second number? And your final answer is, so we need to get a total, so we'll say total equals num1 plus num2. Make sure you don't do spaces like that, num2. It will see it as two separate things. Make sure they're next to each other. Even if you did it set up like this, just don't do that. It doesn't like that. So we've added the two numbers up together, and now you want to print it. So you could just do print total, but if you want it in a sentence, you want to write your final answer is, and hopefully you remember from last time, you put a comma to separate it outside the quotes, and you just write total, and that should add the two numbers together. What is your first number? Let's go 5, and let's do 7. Your final answer, our final answer. Okay, I missed out a Y. Apart from that, it works. Just going to cover some of the common pitfalls, the common mistakes you can make. So like I said, if you don't put int in it, right, let's say you missed out in 1. What's going to happen? What is your first number? 5. 7. It's going to break, because what it's trying to do is add the word 5 to the number 7, which it hates, right? So the other mistakes you could make is, here's a good one actually, if you didn't have the int bit before any of them and you run it, 5 plus 7, right? We're expecting 12, but this is the word 5 plus the word 7, and when you add up the word 5 and the word 7, you just get 57. It's just looked at as two words. To show how this is actually working, you could just even type out two words. We don't really want this, but you do cheese and burger, can't spell burger, and it will say your final answer is cheeseburger. So yeah, you need to add this int bit, and while we're on about adding the int bit, you need to do an extra bracket for the int bit, and then you need to do another bracket here. So every opening bracket needs a closing bracket. So what I mean by that is there's one opening one here, a second opening one here. That means we have to have two closing brackets here. If you miss them out, nothing will work. And you put them back in, and it can add any numbers you want now, and it should work. After that, we're looking at multiplying. Well, you only have to change one little bit to multiply it. Create a program that prints out the word hi 1,000 times. Well, I just kind of showed that. So if you wanted it to print out the word hi 1,000 times, you could actually you just go print hi, and you go times 1,000, and I'll let you see what that does when you run it yourself, and that's pretty much it. Task that's meant to be task 6, edit task 6, so you ask it, so you need a question like before. Really, we're just kind of combining the examples up above. And yeah, that is it for the second worksheet. Right, goodbye.